Islam, because of their acceptance into Islam. Now let's talk a little bit about the persecution of the Prophet ﷺ. How was the Prophet ﷺ tortured? What happened with the Prophet ﷺ himself? Did he go through any physical pain and suffering? Now there's no question he had plenty of emotional pain. He had plenty of emotional torture from the Quraysh. But what about physical? Now, even though the Muslims or the Qurayshi Muslims, they had protection from their own tribe, they were not completely unharmed. They were not completely unharmed. So even though Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was from Quraysh, he was still beaten up. He would still be punished. He would still be tortured. Let me go ahead and mute them. Unlike, for example, Bilal radiallahu anhu, who didn't have a tribe, and he was a slave. And same thing with Khabbab, and same thing with, for example, Suhaib al-Rumi, and also Yasir and Sumayya. So even though if you were from the tribe of Quraysh, you still would be tortured and harmed by them. But of course, not to the same degree as the people that didn't belong to the Quraysh. So we have a number of incidents in which the Prophet ﷺ was physically harmed. The Prophet ﷺ sometimes was protected by Allah, and sometimes he was not protected from physical abuse or torture. And this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite wisdom. Now, who were some of the people that used to cause harm to the Prophet ﷺ? Well, first of them was Abu Lahab, his own uncle. Now, we mentioned already he had 4 prominent uncles. We had the first and the best of them was, can anyone say? Hamza radiallahu anhu. And still at this time, Hamza did not accept Islam. He was still not a Muslim. We will come to that later. Then it was Abbas, right? And then after Abbas, it was Abu Talib. And then after Abu Talib, the worst one was Abu Lahab. And Abu Lahab, he was the same individual who freed a slave. Do you guys remember? He freed a slave when the Prophet ﷺ was born. He freed a slave. That's how happy he was, out of so much joy. But now, that is his sworn enemy. That is his enemy. And him along with his wife, whose name was Jamila, they would go and they would cause so much harm. Of course, they were, they used to all live within the same, in the same neighborhood, so to speak. So what would Jamil do? She would go and take the garbage and the intestines of animals, and even thorns, thorns that she would take out from wood. She would go ahead and take them out and go ahead and put it at the doorsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, in front of his pathway. So she knew which route he would take from his house, whether he would turn right or left or he would go straight. She would go ahead and put that in front of him, and he would get pricked by them. And fetus, and these aborted fetuses from animals and their internal organs would go ahead and be thrown right in front of the Prophet ﷺ's house. And that would cause harm. And he would, when he would see this, he said, what kind of neighbors are you guys? So that was that was how they used to torture him. That's how they used to cause him harm. Also, the other person was Abu Jahl. Now he used to boast to his peers, and he used to swear by their gods, Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, that if he ever saw the Prophet ﷺ, or that the next time he sees the Prophet ﷺ, he will put his foot on his neck when he's in sajda and throw sand on him. So what happened is that the Prophet ﷺ, he was one of the few Muslims who would pray openly in front of the Kaaba. And the reason is because he had that type of protection. Whereas the other Muslims, especially those who were slaves, especially those who were from the lower class of that society, they could not pray openly in front of the Kaaba. So the Prophet ﷺ, he came out one day, and Abu Jahl came forward trying to put his foot on his neck. But before he got to the Prophet ﷺ, he saw, before he got to the Prophet ﷺ, he went, like when he was going to the Prophet ﷺ, he became frozen, and he started walking backwards. And with his hands, he started pushing away with his hands. So the people asked Abu Jahl, what happened? Because they were all cheering him on. Because he was boasting to them, and he said that wallahi, or he said, Wallati wal-Uzza. I swear by Allah and Al-Uzza that this is what I'm going to do. So that was his opportunity. So when he went back, all scared, they asked him what happened. He said that between him and the Prophet ﷺ, he saw a pit of fire, and there were wings hovering above that fire that prevented him. So he thought the fire is going to consume him. That's why he was pushing it back. So the Prophet ﷺ later on told his companions that the fire was brought by the angels. If Abu Jahl was to take one step closer, the angels would have shredded him to pieces. Would have shredded him to pieces. And this is the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he revealed in chapter 75. Okay, let's go to chapter 75. Chapter 75, or rather chapter 96, sorry, 96. 96 verses 9 through 19. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, can see the screen.
Okay, good. So over here, the Prophet ﷺ, okay, over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's saying that have you not seen the one who forbids? So remember, this is Surah Alaq. This is Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Remember, the first 8 verses were revealed how many years ago? It was revealed about, what, 5 years ago? So we are around year 5 after the prophethood. So just a side comment, a side note, the verses or the surahs of the Quran were not necessarily revealed in order. So meaning the first ayah was not Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The first surah was not Surah Fatiha. The second surah was not Surah Al-Baqarah. And even in a surah such as this first surah, which is Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, read in the name of your Lord who has created you, right? So even this is chapter 96. chapter 96, verse 1 was the first ever verse in the Quran to be revealed. Nonetheless, it was not revealed in its entirety. So just a few verses were revealed in the cave of Hira. So then you have, after 5 years, other verses that were revealed. And so then the Prophet ﷺ would be told by Jibreel where to place these verses in the Quran. So you have to remember, at this time there was no like book of Quran. There was no mushaf. There was no book that was compiled. So whatever the Prophet ﷺ was revealed, he used to go ahead and memorize it and then teach it to the Sahaba. Then he would tell that this verse belongs in this surah and these verses belong in that surah. So now we are around in year number 5. So now a few more verses of that particular surah was revealed. So the Prophet ﷺ was told, this belongs in the first verses that I revealed, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. This is a whole science of the science of Quran. And I just wanted to make a side note on this. But nonetheless, this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Abu Jahl. Have you not seen, or have you seen the one who forbids? Have you seen the one who forbids? A servant, when he prays, meaning, do you see the person who forbids a servant, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, when he prays, عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كان على الهدى, have you seen if he is upon guidance? أو أمر بالتقوى, or enjoins righteousness, meaning, do you see Abu Jahl whether he is upon guidance? Of course he's not. Does he enjoin righteousness? No, he is not enjoining righteousness. He's enjoining evil. أَرَأَيْتَ إِن كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى, have you seen if he denies and turns away? Meaning, don't you see him how he denies the verses of the Quran and how he turns away from the da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ? Does he not know that Allah sees? أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى, does he not know that Allah sees? Kalla. And kalla is a very strong, emphatic no. So all of this, Allah, he's saying no to it. So do you see is he enjoining righteousness? Is he upon guidance? And over here, this is where the answer comes. An emphatic no. No, he is not upon guidance. No, he is not enjoining righteousness. He's not upon guidance. And he doesn't think that Allah sees him. If he does not desist, we will surely drag him by the forelock. So this is the forelock right here. So imagine Abu Jahl on the day of judgment, he will be dragged by the forelock. How that's going to be done, we will see on that day. That he's going to be dragged by his forelock on the day of judgment. نَاصِيَةً كَاذِبَةً خَاطِئَةً نَاصِيَةً كَاذِبَةً خَاطِئَةً, a lying, sinning forelock. فَلْيَدْعُ نَادِيَهُ, then let him call his associates. Then, meaning Allah, he's saying that on that day, on the day of judgment, when he is being dragged on his forelock, let me go ahead and get another translation for those who prefers a different. Okay. Allah, he's saying that on that day, let him call his associates, meaning those people that he used to boast to in this world, that look how he's going to punish and torture the Prophet ﷺ. فَلْيَدْعُ نَادِيَهُ سَنَدْعُ الزَّبَانِيَةَ, and we will call the guards of the hellfire. Allah, He's saying, so let him call his friends, his helpers. We will call the guards of Jahannam to deal with him. We will call the guards, meaning the angels. They are the guardians of Jahannam. Kalla, nay. And that is one is la. La means no. Kalla is an emphatic no, which means nay, or which means, for example, like a very strong no. Do not obey him, but prostrate and draw near. Meaning, don't listen to Abu Jahl when he threatens when he threatens you with torture and physical harm by not praying to Allah in front of the Kaaba. Don't listen to him. Don't be afraid of him. But rather, go ahead and continue your salah and continue to prostrate to Allah and come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, if you guys know, this, when we see this, and there's about, I think, 14 or 16, depending, I mean, there's some differences of opinion amongst the scholars, but nonetheless, there are about 14 to 16 places in the Quran that has this particular sign. If you look, there's only in this part of the Quran, and I think in Juz Amma, there's 2, I think, right? Or 1. And this shows that this, when you recite this particular verse, go ahead and prostrate. So some of the scholars say that prostration is, when you recite this, to prostrate is a sunnah, and others say it is actually an emphatic sunnah, and others say that it is wajib, that you must prostrate. Why? Because over here it's a command. Sajada yasjudu usjud. So Allah, He's commanding us, the Prophet ﷺ, and anyone who reads this, that go ahead and make sajda. So this, when we read this, we go ahead and make sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals these verses about Abu Jahl when he threatens to torture the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now Abu Jahl, he was unsuccessful in this particular instance, right? But there's another instant in which it's narrated in Bukhari, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he was once praying by the Kaaba, and there is an individual, and he's one of the top 5 worst enemies of Islam. One of the top 5. His name is Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt. Uqba. So he's one of the top 5 enemies of Islam who stoops so low in his tactics, and some may argue that he is probably even worse than Abu Jahl. He comes from behind the Prophet ﷺ when the Prophet ﷺ is praying in front of the Kaaba. He takes off his upper garment, meaning his shirt, okay, his thobe, and he puts it around the neck of the Prophet ﷺ, and he begins to choke him. And the Prophet ﷺ was struggling, but the people would not intervene, but rather they would be even laughing at that scene. They would be laughing at that scene. How this individual had the audacity, but not only the audacity, how he stooped so low that this is what they would do to one of their own kind. So he ran to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He ran to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he was told that, look, your friend, your companion, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, he's being tortured. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he rushes to the Kaaba and he attacks Uqba and he pushes him away from the Prophet ﷺ, and he says to Uqba, أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَنْ يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهِ. He said, are you going to kill a person just because he says, my Lord is Allah? Are you going to kill him just because he says, my Lord is Allah? Is that how low you are going to stoop to? He didn't kill anyone. He didn't do anything that makes him deserve such a treatment. But rather, his only sin is that my Lord is Allah. And subhanAllah, Allah, and this shows us that the status of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Allah, He revealed verses in the Quran that we recite to this day, which reflects the exact same phrasing of what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said. And that is in chapter 40, verse 28. Chapter 40, verse 28. Let me just type that in. Okay. Chapter 40, verse 28. Over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and a believing man from the family of Fir'aun, who concealed his faith, said, do you kill a man merely because he says, my Lord is Allah? So this is talking about a person from the family or from the tribe or from the people of Fir'aun who concealed his iman, and he said, are you going to kill someone, meaning Musa alayhi salam, who says that my Lord is Allah, and he came with clear proofs from his Lord? And so this is exactly what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is also saying to the people. And this shows the status of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu as a magnificent Sahabi. And so we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He willed for Abu Bakr to save the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have Uqba also, once the same individual who choked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once he was listening to the Quranic recitation behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when one of his friends saw him listening to the Quranic recitation, remember, as a side note, that these people, however much they hated the message of the Prophet ﷺ, yet they were mesmerized by his recitation of the Quran. They were mesmerized, and they were awed by the Quran itself. So whenever he used to hear the Quran, just to show the people how much they hate the Quran and how much they hate what he's calling to, they would, speak louder than him. They would put fingers in their ears, just so that way they can show off. But if there was no one around, they would go ahead and try to listen. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous lesson, but there were three people, Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, and Uqba, who 3 nights in a row, they would go secretly to the house of the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, one did not know about the other. So they would take up positions in different parts of the Prophet ﷺ, so that way they would not be seen by anyone. And they had taken up position in different parts, so they didn't know that there's another one also listening. And they would clearly they would be there in order for them to listen to the recitation of the Quran uninterrupted. They really want to know. And then when dawn would break, they tried to hurry back to their houses, and then they would meet on the way. As if, like a thief, when you catch him, trying to sneak somewhere, trying to steal something. But they understood. He said, all right, whatever we did today, we shouldn't do this ever again. And they promised each other. And then the second day they did this the same. And the third day they did the same as well. All right. So why? Because they wanted to listen to the Quran, and they wanted to hear the beauty of the recitation of the Quran being recited uninterrupted, meaning they wanted to do this and not have the admonition from the people, why are you listening? Or the accusation, like, are you trying to become Muslim? Are you trying to listen? Are you interested? So at nighttime, when there was no one around, they would actually do this. So Uqba also, he found an opportunity. None of his friends are around. And here is the Prophet ﷺ. He is reciting the Quran. So he goes behind him and he's trying to listen to him uninterrupted. And all of a sudden, one of his friends comes and he admonishes him for listening to the Quran. So what does he do? He said, well, listen, this is unacceptable that you're doing this. Now, in order for you to make up for that sin, I want you to go ahead and spit at the Prophet ﷺ. You see that? Such a lowly tactic that they're using. He said, I want you to go ahead and spit at him. So Uqba, he goes and he spits at the Prophet ﷺ. Now this is how this is how the Prophet ﷺ, he suffered. Now my question to us is, when was the last time you suffered for Islam? Right? Now we're not saying for us to go out and put ourselves in a position where we would be tortured and physically harmed, or even financially. But what about, for example, something as small as attending classes? Do you sacrifice your sleep? Do you sacrifice your time? Oh no, every Sunday from 12 to 2, I have golf with my friends. Well, our class originally was 10:30 to 12:30. No, I can't make it. I have golf with this CEO and that bank guy and this individual. Okay, what about Saturday? No, Saturday all day, I'm attending weddings. Do you see how in our own capacity, something that we are able to handle, we are unable to sacrifice that much? We're not saying for us to go ahead out and start giving da'wah and put ourselves in harm's way, or for us to, oh, why can't you attend class? Oh, because, my wife doesn't want me to attend class. She says weekends are for us. Or my husband wouldn't allow me because 1, 2, 3. Now that tells you the level of sacrifice that you are doing or not doing. That is, of course, according to our level of iman. So Allah, He's not going to burden us with something that we cannot handle. But this one, Allah, He knows. If you are put in that situation, Allah, He knows that you are able to handle this. Yet you choose not to, due to one reason or the other, making excuses. So this was the sacrifice, and this was that the Prophet ﷺ, he did. This is what he did. Just because he said that my Lord is Allah. Also the Prophet ﷺ, he was emotionally harmed. Now it comes also in hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari is one of the most authentic books of hadith that we have. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that once the Prophet ﷺ, he was praying at the Kaaba. Abu Jahl and his cronies, a whole bunch of his friends, were sitting around. Right? Now this is a place where you sit in front of the Kaaba, you have your own discussion. You kind of get together after a long day full of work, and you have your idols in front of you, your favorite idol that you place there, that your forefathers placed there, that people go ahead and worship. So they find a comfortable place to lounge and to basically uh, stare at the Kaaba as well as have a conversation. So here, Abu Jahl and his friends are sitting around, and he asks his people, and the Prophet ﷺ, he's praying his salah in front of the Kaaba. So he tells his friends, who can go and bring me the insides of a camel, meaning the intestines and the internal organs of the camel, so I can throw it on the back of the Prophet ﷺ. So I can throw it on the back of the Prophet ﷺ. So the worst of them, of course, I mentioned, it was Uqba. He goes to a dead camel, a dead carcass. He pulls out the internal organs and the intestines of the camel. And when the Prophet ﷺ, he goes into sajda, he dumps it all upon the Prophet ﷺ. The weight of it is so heavy. You have to, I don't know if you have slaughtered an animal as big as a camel, right? I haven't slaughtered a camel, but I've definitely slaughtered a cow. It is very, very heavy. So imagine a camel. He dumps it on top of the Prophet ﷺ, while the Prophet ﷺ, he is in sajda. And the people, and the Prophet ﷺ, he's unable to come out from sajda because of the heaviness of the insides of the camel. Now, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he's narrating this hadith. Why? Because he sees what's going on. However, because he's from the slave class of Makkah, he cannot do anything about it. Why? Because you have all of these big people, these chieftains, the people who have authority and men behind them. How can he go ahead and undo what they just did? He has no authority. He will immediately be stopped before he can even reach the Prophet ﷺ. And then he would be put into a position of torture. So what does he do? He goes and he runs and he tells Fatima radiallahu anha, his daughter, who at that age was only 8 years old. 8 years old. So she goes running to her father, the Prophet ﷺ, and she begins to cry and helps him to remove all the entrails and all the internal organs and the intestines off of the Prophet ﷺ's back. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ, he got up, he faced them and he raised his finger and he starts to invoke and curse them. He starts to make dua against them by mentioning their names. And there were all they were all sitting, and there were about 7 of them. There were about 7 of them. He starts 5 to 7. Some narration says, but in Hadith of Bukhari it mentions 7. So he starts to mention their name and he begins to curse them by name, invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of the Kaaba. Now, even though they were kuffar, they didn't believe in the Prophet ﷺ, still they believe that whoever makes dua in front of the Kaaba, whoever it is, Allah will accept it. So all of a sudden, They became scared. All of a sudden, the colors of their faces changed. And they started going to the Prophet ﷺ and asking him for forgiveness. Look at how Allah immediately humiliates them. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he says, Wallahi, I saw all of them being killed in the battle of Badr. For example, one of the people the Prophet ﷺ made dua against was Walid ibn Mughira. Walid ibn Mughira. He was the father of Khalid ibn Walid. What happened to him? He was merely scratched by an arrow. He was merely scratched by an arrow. And he thought nothing of it. But Jibreel alayhi salam, he inflamed that scratch to the point where Walid thought that he had the worst wound ever in that battle. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, he made dua against an individual. His name was Aswad ibn Yaghuth. Aswad, the son of the slave of Yaghuth, and Yaghuth was one of their gods. He started developing boils and that caused his death. That caused his death. Another narration says that Jibreel, he pointed towards his belly and he developed dropsies that caused his belly to swell so much that he died because of that. There's another one, and that is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. His name was Aswad ibn Abdul Muttalib. The Prophet ﷺ, he made dua to Allah to snatch his eyesight and to deprive him of fatherhood. And Allah, he accepted that dua. So Jibreel was sent to strike his face with a thorny branch, and his eyesight was lost. And Jibreel, he killed his sons as well. Harith ibn Qais. Harith ibn Qais. He died because his stomach started to fill up with yellow fluid, and the contents of his intestines began to flow from his nose. Allah gave them such a torment in this world. Divine intervention and retribution came to these individuals. Why? First of all, because of their opposition to the message of Islam and their rejection. And second, because of their torture of the most beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's prophets. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he never took revenge personally. He never took revenge based upon his personal thing. But when he felt that what these people were doing was becoming a means for other people to accept Islam, that's when he would take action. Also, I forgot to mention, let me share this again. Over here, Abu Lahab, and his wife Jamila. When the Prophet ﷺ, remember about 2 years ago, we're in year 5, around year 5, 5.5, 6. In year 3, when the Prophet ﷺ was ordered by Allah to go public with his da'wah, Abu Lahab, that's when he announced his opposition and animosity to the Prophet ﷺ. And in one way to disgrace and humiliate the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Lahab, he told his 2 sons. He told his 2 sons to go ahead and divorce the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. because his two sons, he had three sons. He had three sons, but the two sons that were married to his two daughters were Utbah and Atiba. Utbah and Atiba, or Utayba. These were the three. These were the two sons that were married. So Abu Lahab and his wife, meaning their parents, told them, "We want you to go ahead and divorce the daughters of Muhammad, because he has become a disbeliever in Allah and Al-Uzza." So they obeyed their father and their mother, and they divorced. And that is something that is very humiliating. That is something that's very painful for our father to witness. That their daughters became divorced because of his message. That really pained the Prophet ﷺ. And in one narration, it states how the Prophet ﷺ, he made dua against his sons because of what they did. He made dua against us. And I also forgot to mention that when Jamila, when she used to go ahead and lay down these thorns in front of the Prophet ﷺ's path, and he used to be pricked by these thorns, that used to really like bother the Prophet, because you have to understand, they didn't have these very hard shoes or slippers, and even if they did, it wasn't something that was resistant to thorns and these nails pricking them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cursed both of them in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cursed them in the Quran, and he revealed Suratul Lahab or Suratul Masad, depends which mushaf you have. He cursed both of them. Allah says, "May the hands of Abu Lahab," chapter 111, "may the hands of Abu Lahab be ruined," and ruined he is. "Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab," his wealth will not avail him or that which he gained. Meaning on the day of judgment, whatever wealth he used to have and boast about, and whatever he earned in this world, that is not going to benefit him on the day of judgment. Sayasla narun dhata lahab, he will enter to burn in a fire of blazing flame, along with his wife, hammalat al-hatab, the carrier of firewood. Now, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention that she would be in Jahannam carrying firewood? Because just like how in this world she was carrying wood and taking out those pricks and those thorns, just like how she used to carry those in this world and put it in front of the pathway of the Prophet ﷺ and torture him and give him that physical harm, and she used to enjoy that. Just like how she used to carry the firewood in this world in order, to her house, but on her way to the house, she used to take out those that were sticking out and put it in front of the Prophet ﷺ firewood. Allah would punish her on the day of judgment in Jahannam while she is being burnt. She is going to go around searching for firewood and carrying that. Fi jidiha hablum min masad, and around her neck is a rope of twisted fiber. A rope of twisted fiber. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he revealed this as a response to their torture of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we remember what Allah revealed in chapter 96, verse 9 through 19 for about Abu Jahl. We also had verses revealed against Walid ibn Mughira, the father of Khalid ibn Walid. When this surah was revealed, Jamila, she goes in this tirade, she goes in this huge fit, and she becomes so upset that now the Prophet, that now Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is cursing her and her husband. So because she hears this, she hears these verses, she hears that, oh, Abu Lahab. And by the way, this is the only person from amongst the 5 or the 7 prominent chiefs or prominent Qurayshis that has been mentioned by name in the Quran. And this is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Jahl, remember, it says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى? It just mentioned, have you not seen the one? But of course we know who, because we know the context in which those verses were revealed. So we know it was Abu Jahl, even though his name is not mentioned, but we know the context. That's why Seerah is so important, because it gives you the context of these verses. You cannot know the Quran or the context of the Quran, or you cannot know the tafsir of the Quran if you are also not well versed in the Seerah of the Prophet. You cannot know the tafsir of the Quran if you're not well versed in the Seerah, because the Seerah gives you the context. It gives you, okay, in this time, in this day, in this year, in this place, this thing happened. Okay. And then you also read that these verses were revealed. So you put one and one together and you find that this was revealed because of this thing happening to this individual at this time. And then you say, well, this is because of this. So we know when Allah, He says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى? Don't you see the one who forbids, meaning the one Abu Jahl? Why? Because it was revealed immediately after what Abu Jahl he did, or he attempted to do to the Prophet ﷺ before he was frightened by the angels with fire. But Abu Lahab, he's the only one that is mentioned. In fact, the whole surah is named after him. Or others say it's Masad, but nonetheless, he's the only one. So when they hear this, and tabbat, this is like a very this is like a curse from Allah. This is a curse from Allah. So Allah, He is cursing Abu Lahab. And then He's cursing his wife over here, and his wife. So Jamila, she says, I'm the only wife. So she takes this and she goes into a fit, she goes into a rage, and she goes out of her house trying to find the Prophet. She takes a rock. She takes a rock. This is where I put here. She takes a rock because she says that if I see him, I'm going to smash his head with that rock. So on her way, as she is going, she finds Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu sitting. He said, where is your companion? But in reality, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting right next to Abu Bakr, but she couldn't see him. Where is your companion? He doesn't answer her. He said, don't you hear that he is cursing me and my husband? These things that he's saying, she's referring to these verses of the Quran. If I see him, I'm going to smash his head with this rock. So she leaves. He doesn't even answer. So Abu Bakr, he looks at the Prophet ﷺ and he says, O Prophet of Allah, she didn't see you even though you were sitting right there? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah, there's two different narrations. One of them says there was a hijab between me and her, meaning there was a barrier between me and her, so she couldn't see me. An angel was acting as a barrier between me. And then another narration says that Allah snatched her eyesight from seeing me. but it both means, or it both uh, gives the same meaning. It gives both gives the same meaning. Okay. So these individuals, Abu Jahl, Utbah, Shayba, Walid, Ibn Mughir, all of these individuals, they were all cursed by the Prophet ﷺ in front of the Kaaba, and they were all dead. All of these 7 individuals were killed. And Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he says, Wallahi, I saw their bodies dragged into the well and thrown into the well of Badr. Into the well of Badr. There was also assassination plots and attempts against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we mentioned emotional, physical torture. Now there was also assassination attempts against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, this happened much later on, around year 8 or 9 of prophethood, of the da'wah. The Prophet ﷺ, he was told about their assassination attempts, but he said he would say, I don't fear them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of them for me. Allah will take care of them for me. Because he knew Allah will protect him. He took his necessary precautions. Right? Now, one of the questions we want, before I move on to why were the believers tested? Why did Allah, He make them go through these things? Before I mention that, are there any questions? Let me go ahead and check some of your guys' chats. Okay, loud and clear.
Assalamualaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, I have a question here. At the beginning, you mentioned that sometimes a prophet got protection, sometimes not. I can't imagine that it's happened to us, right? We are just a normal, a common human that, I don't know, we are not far away to prophet, but even prophet himself sometimes got protection, sometimes not. And what about us if we don't get any protection from Allah? And then what is the wisdom behind this story? Because, speaking about the suffering, what suffer that we got, for me, I mean, like, maybe because I was born as a Muslim, a suffering to be a Muslim maybe not so much that big, but as for my husband, for example, he is someone love, so maybe he got more suffering than me. But then compared to Prophet Muhammad, we are way too long, right? And then because you said that sometimes Prophet Muhammad got protection, sometimes not.
Yeah.
And what about us? How to get protection from Allah? It's really make me scared.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Now, first of all, Allah, He will never put upon you a situation which you cannot handle. So if you are doing da'wah and you are someone who is physically weak, spiritually, iman-wise, you are weak, Allah, He's not going to put you in a situation like the situation of Bilal radiallahu anhu. He's not going to put you in a situation like how if you were to pray your salah, for example, all of a sudden there's going to be people coming and they are going to put cow or camel intestines on your back. Allah, He's not going to put you in that situation if your iman is weak. Okay? Now, Allah, He will test us and He will put us in difficulties according to our level of iman. So, for example, if you are a person who is giving da'wah to individuals, to your family, if you are probably the first one to wear hijab, if you are probably the first one to start praying in your household, if you are the first one to go for Hajj, what is your And that means your iman is not like all of a sudden overnight it became like the iman of the Sahaba. What's going to happen? Your iman is actually in the stage of development. Your iman is still weak. Your iman is, you are just putting your, you're just getting your feet wet. You are just coming into Islam through salah and through fasting and hijab and so on. So Allah is not going to put such a high burden on you that the next day you are going to leave. But what is He going to test you with? Well, some of the things that we have seen amongst certain individuals is your family is going to oppose you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to say, what is this hijab you are wearing? Oh, do you think you are better than us by praying salah? Oh, why are you going for Hajj? Why are you wasting your money? Go for Hajj when you are 50 or 60. You're still young. They're going to say these things. Oh, this person, she thinks that she is better than us. That's why she's telling us to go pray, because now all of a sudden she's praying, and now she's telling us to pray. Look, last week she wasn't praying. Oh, she's wearing hijab. This is just a phase. So they're going to go ahead and cause you that type of emotional harm. And who's going to be the first one? You might be wondering, why would the uncle of the Prophet do this to him?
Okay.
Why would he persecute the Prophet? Why was he so evil, Abu Lahab and the other uncles? Why were they so evil? Right? Well, just look at our own situation. When you are coming into the religion, who are the first people to oppose you? Who are the first people to go ahead and talk against you? It's going to be your own family members. It's probably going to be your loved one, like your wife, like your husband. And if you guys are both making hijrah or coming into, the practicing of Islam together, then it's going to be your parents. Your parents are going, oh, why are you doing this? So that is going to be the level. Now, if you look at, for example, other people in other parts of the world and how they are being tortured, like you see the Uyghurs in China, for example, and they are being tortured because they are saying, Allah is my Lord. Now, Allah has put that type of a test upon them according to their level of Iman. According to their level of Iman. Imagine if that was put on us. I'm sure we think, well, if I go through some difficulties like this, I don't know how I'm going to respond. I don't know what my state of Iman is. That is because our Iman is so weak. Allah has not tested us because it would be unjust. It would be something that will go against the verse of the Quran that Allah says Allah never burdens a soul beyond what they cannot handle. So the people that are suffering persecution in China, it is because of their level of Iman. But we are not doing it. We are not suffering, right? We are suffering in other way. Our suffering or our test is in terms of peace and security. That in itself is a test from Allah. Are you going to take advantage of your free time? We're not being put in camps. We're not being forced to drink alcohol in the month of Ramadan. We are allowed to do all of this, but are we doing it? Are we taking advantage of our Ramadan to go ahead and get closer to Allah? Like, I'm sure most of you or some of you have are missing the masjid, to go to the masjid. We wish we could, but I was reflecting the other day and I was like, we had that opportunity for 30, 40 years to go to the masjid. How many times in a day or in a week would we go to the masjid? But when this ni'mah, this bounty, this blessing was taken away from us, it is one of the hikmah is in order for us to realize you don't take advantage of it when it's readily available, then guess what's going to happen? Allah, He takes it away from us. And then now there's nothing you can do about it. We are all paralyzed. We cannot move. We cannot even go to the masjid. And there was no power on earth that could prevent us from going to the masjid. But now all of a sudden, Allah, He took that because He has that power. That is something for us to reflect. So we shouldn't be yearning or wishing or looking for, why I cannot be tortured for the sake of Allah. I'm going to be so strong. No, we have something 1,000 times less than what they were going through, yet we are failing every single day. We are failing in our tests. So that brings me to another part of your question, which was actually the topic I was going to discuss, and that is, why were they tested? Why are we being tested? Why are we being tested? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gain anything from testing us? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have, what is His wisdom behind that? What is the wisdom behind all of this? Well, first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran, in chapter 29, verse 2 and 3. Verse 2 and 3. Allah, He mentions why He tests us. He says, Alif Lam Mim, and these are verses, or these are letters that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the meaning of. Allah, He says, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do the people think that they will be left to say, we believe, we have iman, amanna, we believe, and they will not be tested? Allah, He says, do you think that just because you say we are Muslims, we are believers, that I am not going to test you? I am not going to give you fitna? Oh yeah, that's what He's saying. وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. That you will not get fitna in your life. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ فَتَنَّ. So this is fitna again. Allah, He says, but we have certainly tested, gave fitna to those before them. And Allah will surely make it evident those who are truthful, and He will surely make evident the liars. What does this mean? Allah, He says, just like the people before you, I gave them tests and fitna, just like the people before you, I am also going to give you tests and trials. Why? So that way I can know who is truthful when they say, Allah, I love Allah. Islam is the true religion. I love the Prophet. So Allah, He wants to know who is going to be truthful when they say this, and who's going to crack, who's going to be liar, who are going to give up. We say the Quran is true. Allah, mashallah, Allah, I love Allah. The Quran, oh, mashallah. Yeah, but then the Quran says don't do 1, 2, 3. We go ahead and do it. Does that mean we are truthful when we say we love the Quran? When we say, I love the Prophet, I would, if he was alive, if I was alive during his time and I saw Abu Jahl doing this, I'm going to go and punch Abu Jahl. Wait, that's what we feel when we hear or when we read the Seerah. Why didn't Ibn Mas'ud go, I swear, if I don't care, even if I die, I'm going to do it. All right, let's contextualize that. Let's go ahead and see. Well, the Prophet ﷺ, he told us, don't do 1, 2, 3. Are we following him? He says, 1, 2, 3, do it. Don't imitate the kuffar. Go ahead and follow my sunnah. Look like me, dress like me. No, let me go ahead. And I want to look like them. I want to have my haircuts like them. I want to dress like them. My hairstyle like them. So Allah wants to see when He gives us a fitna of women, fitna of wealth, fitna of kids. When you have kids, before you got married, you were very generous. After you got married, you became stingy. Why? Because now you are saying, instead of me giving 100 ringgits a week, a month, right? I could actually keep that for my kids' future. So you see how your kids was a fitna for you? You understand? Your wife or your spouse, your husband can be a fitna. Because before you used to attend classes, before you used to seek knowledge, before you used to go to the masjid, before you used to go for, do all of these good things. Now you got married. Oh, well, I can't leave my wife behind. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, my wife doesn't like the beard. She says, oh, it makes me tickle. So these are a sources of fitna. So then we say, are we doing that little that the Prophet ﷺ, and like, how am I going to stand up for the Prophet if I was alive during his time when I can't even stand up for his sunnah in this world? When I try to look like him, people make fun of me and I take that to heart. So that is one of the wisdom Allah wants, and that's why I mentioned last week, when people started to say and mock Bilal, where is this Ahad? You're saying Ahad, Ahad. Meaning it's fake. You're calling upon a fake God. And what did Bilal say? He said, no. He said, Allah, He is true. He is truthful. He is Al-Haq. He exists. He is truthful in his essence, in his being, in his existence. He is truthful in his promise to us, but he wants to see whether Bilal, he is truthful when he says La ilaha illallah. Allah, He's truthful. He is true. He is Al-Haq. But He wants to see whether we are truthful. That's why when remember last week I said when the Prophet ﷺ, he told the Quraysh, he said, I give you, when they were trying to bribe him and say, give this up, he said, one word. I just want you guys to say one word. They say one word, we will say 10 words like that. He said, what is this one word that will make all of Arabia fall under our rule, that we will be successful in this and that? And the Prophet ﷺ said to them, say La ilaha illallah, that there is no one worthy of worship except. Now that was not just a phrase that just meant say there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. No. They really knew what that meant. They knew that, okay, Allah, He says this is haram. There is no one worthy of me listening to except Allah. So if my boss says you can't wear the hijab, they are not worthy for me to listen to except what Allah says I have to do. So they knew exactly, they knew. That's why they couldn't say it, because they were not willing to leave their old ways. For them, it really didn't matter. Okay, worship this, worship 100, worship one. No, they knew what La ilaha illallah meant. So they were not able to give up their interest, their riba, their drinking, their zina, all of these sins that they were committing, their lies, their torture, them taking the wealth of innocent people without a just cause, and so many other things. They didn't. They knew that meaning, and they were not willing to give that up. Also, the other. So over here, does this verse make sense? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is doing this. You might be wondering, why am I being tested in my life? Like, what does Allah get? No, Allah doesn't get anything. Allah just, He wants to know, even though He knows. But this is actually more of rhetorical, meaning Allah, He knows whether you are truthful or not. It is just to prove to us, so that way we don't have an argument against Allah. Oh Allah, but I didn't know. So Allah, He's just going to use it as an evidence for us or against us, whether we are telling the truth or whether we are liars. The other hikmah or the other verse in the Quran, Allah, He says in chapter 2, verse 214. Chapter 2, verse 214 in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah, He says, Am hasibtum, do you think that you will go to Jannah, an tadkhulul Jannah walamma ya'tikum, and the same thing is not going to happen to you, like what happened to those that came before you? Allah, He's saying, do you think that you will just go to Jannah just because you said La ilaha illallah, and the fitna and the trials and the test is not going to come to you just like how it came to those before you? What kind of test did they have? They were touched by poverty. They had poverty. They had hardship. And they were shaken until even their messengers, meaning their prophets, their messenger, and those who believed with him said, when is the help of Allah? When is the help of Allah? So just because you said La ilaha illallah, Jannah is guaranteed, and your name is already written on the gates of Jannah, and when you wake up on the day of judgment, Jannah is going to be calling to you and saying, oh, so and so, come through this gate, and another gate is going to say, no, enter Jannah through me. Just because you said La ilaha illallah? No. Let's see. When poverty hits you, how are you going to react? Are you going to give up your principles of Islam just so you can uplift this poverty? Are you going to go ahead and lie just so you can get out of poverty? Are you going to go ahead and backstab people just to get out of poverty? Are you going to deal in haram, in drugs, to sell drugs? Because that's the easy way. That's probably one of the easiest or fastest way to make money, but also a very fast way to die too, right? You can make $1 million in a month selling drugs, right? What are you going to do during times of poverty and hardship? How are you going to deal with hardships? You have a hard life. You have a hard relationship with your family, with your wife, with your husband. How are you going to behave? Are you going to behave like, like how the kuffar behave? Or are you going to behave within the confinements, within the principles of Islam? How are you going to behave? So poverty and hardship is going to come. So for example, a hardship like this pandemic, how are you going to behave? Are you going to sell the masks for double its price now? If you are a retailer, are you going to go ahead and hoard these necessary supplies? What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with this hardship? A lot of people are getting laid off. A lot of people don't have a job. What are they going to do? How are they going to behave? Every day we are hearing stories about how this retiree has been robbed of their savings, 100,000, 700. Yesterday, 700,000 ringgits. Right? Are you going to, resort to purse snatching? Like, what are you going to do? And right now, it's nothing compared to what's awaiting us. I don't want to scare you guys, so I'm not going to go into more details about this pandemic. But if you think now is bad, wait until a few more weeks or months. The real test is right now, at least the shelves are fairly full with food. Actually, I was going the other day, and I remember when it first happened on Monday, because I usually shop on Monday, and everyone was panic shopping. It made me panic too. I went for regular shopping. I'm like, this is odd. No one is here on Monday. That's why I like to go on Monday. I just like to take my time, shop this, get this, come home, stack everything. This time, I see people with carts full. I'm like, I knew something was up, but I wasn't expecting it. So it's just natural. You're going to start panicking too. Okay, all right. If everyone else is stocking up, let me go ahead and buy things that at least will last me for a couple days or a week, instead of me having to come every day, because then it's quarantine, it's curfew, right? So I remember shopping, and then after a few days, I go again to do some more shopping, and the shelves are restocked. MashaAllah, it's good. So then everyone was like, all right, no need to panic shop. But now what's happening is the shelves are actually being empty. And it's not being empty because people are panic shopping. It's being empty because the supply chain is being disrupted. I'm not saying all the shelves. I'm saying to, a fairly good amount where you can notice it. Why? Because now the supply chain is being disrupted. People are throwing tons, thousands of kilos, tons of 10,000 kilos of fresh vegetables and fruits just thrown. In the US, 5 million gallons, which means 20 million liters of milk every day is being thrown. How much? 20 million liters of milk being dumped every single day. There's no more demand for it because restaurants and these places are closed. So they have 5 million gallons of milk thrown, and they want to control the prices as well, because if they introduce it, prices will go down. Now you will find one ringgit for a liter. So the supply chains are already being, how are we going to, so right now it's getting a little bit more difficult. It's already getting to a lot of people. People are going crazy. All right. What about after 2 months, right? When people are going to be affected by this even more? Now there's no more jobs. Companies have to scale back. People have to go ahead and they can't afford because no one is shopping. Why can't no one shop? Because they don't have money. Why don't they have money? Because they got laid off. So then what are you going to do at that time? Just look at, this is exactly some of the hardships that the Sahaba faced. They accepted Islam. Abu Bakr, he had 6 businesses or 5 businesses, or 5 shops. He accepted Islam. Do you think, and then when they went public, do you think they were still shopping from him? Oh, Abu Bakr, you know what I did to you yesterday, or what I said to you yesterday? Let bygones be bygones, and let me go ahead and still shop from you. No. When they were making hijrah, which is the next topic, when they were making hijrah to Abyssinia, and that was only in the year 5 after the da'wah, meaning within just 2 years, all of these tortures that was happening within these 2 years after he went public. So when Abu Bakr went public with his Islam and his da'wah, you think it was just like, okay, no problem. Business is business. What you do, all right, what I did to you or said to you, don't take it too personal. Now go ahead, let me buy this and let me buy it. No, it was complete boycott. What did he do in that type of hardship? Did he think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't defend the Prophet in public because I still want my business to carry on? Right? Just like nowadays. You have, for example, France and Denmark and these countries who are making fun of the Prophet ﷺ, coming out with these cartoons, and it is being supported by the government, right? It is supported by the government with the excuse that this is freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Oh yeah, if it's freedom of speech, why don't you support when people criticize or analyze or question the Holocaust? Or when people criticize your queen or your king, right? Why isn't that a freedom of expression, or at least freedom of academia or freedom of religion or whatever it is they want to? So these people are supported by the governments to go ahead and further their torture, or rather further their abuse against the Muslims and Islam. And yet we, as a Muslim society, as a Muslim government, as Muslims individuals, we're still going to go ahead and buy from them. France, oh, they have the best perfume. Let me go ahead and buy from them. Did we ever say, you know what, I'm going to boycott it? Me as a CEO, I used to send, every day, every month, a container full of this to this particular country. Now I'm not, because they abused my Prophet. Imagine if Abu Bakr thought that way. That, you know what, I can't really defend him when he's being choked in front of the Kaaba, because these people are my friends too. Because these people, they're going to not pay me the debt that they owe me. Imagine if he thought about things the way we do. You think he would be the best man after the prophets? Do you think Allah will say, radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu? Do you think that he would be given such a high position in Islam? No, that position didn't come by, let's do deen and dunya. I don't know what that means, but let's do dunya and akhirah, meaning we should work for both dunya and akhirah. That is an impossibility. You cannot do both deen and dunya. Take that out of your head. Whoever put that in your head was living in a different world. It is only deen and deen. So if you are working, that is your deen. Don't say deen and dunya. The world and the hereafter. You can't. You can only have one, either this world or at the expense of the akhirah, or the akhirah at the expense of this world. So if you are working, work because it is your religion. If you are getting an education, get an education because it is part of Islam. If you are developing a family, you do that not because it's dunya, but because it's your deen. So what does that mean? You might be saying, well, you call it deen, we call it dunya. No, no, there's a huge difference. And the difference is that you will do that according to the principles of Islam. You would do that within the confinements of Islam. So your business, you would do that, okay, within the framework of Islam. So the hardships that is placed upon you because of your religion is according to your level of iman. So of course we're not going to be physically abused or tortured, but maybe these hardships that I mentioned here, or the ayah of Quran mentioned, hardship. How are you going to? Are you still going to import lure park from Denmark? You know, the butter, the milk products, the dairy products from. Are you still going to import some of these expensive chocolates from the Netherlands or from I don't know where else they get it from? Right? Look at what someone like Mahathir he said about France. Right? I'm not gonna spend time in finding his tweet that he did. Right? Look at what he said. Maybe I can find it and send it to you guys in the WhatsApp group. But look at what he said when they came out with the cartoons of the Prophet. He said he called them some, not very good names. But he said he's going to boycott their products. Well, that is someone, at that time he wasn't a prime minister, he's just a regular citizen. But you see how someone like him, who is not labeled as a religious individual, maybe he is now, inshallah, may Allah give him more guidance, inshallah. So, but you see someone like him who, imagine if he was in a position of power, I'm sure he would have boycotted them and prevented their products from entering Malaysia. But instead you have more, especially from the Arab leaders. Oh, you saying you're doing this about that? You know what? We're going to go ahead and support you even more. We're going to order more things from you guys. That's what they did. When the scholars spoke out against it, guess what? No. We put the scholars in prison. And that's what they did. They put the scholars in prison because they spoke out against it and they supported these governments, the French and these individuals, even more so with their businesses. Now, do you think that they will go ahead and face the Prophet on the Day of Judgment and they will go to the fountain of the Prophet ﷺ, his sister, and take that cup from the Prophet's blessed hand, and then they will be made to drink the water from the fountain? You think that they will be allowed by the angels to do that? Or do you think that they will also be grabbed by their lying, sinful forelocks, just like Abu Jahl, and dragged into Jahannam? Yeah, of course. 100%. The latter. So these are some of the benefits or the hikmah that the Prophet ﷺ, that Allah, he tests some of his believers. Why can't the Muslim? Okay. All right. Who are the 7 individuals? Who are the 7 individuals? Okay, I'll mention them again. Abu Jahl. All right, Abu Jahl. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah. Shaybah ibn Rabi'ah. Walid ibn Uqbah. Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Uqbah ibn Abi Mu'ayt. This was the person who was one of the worst ones. And the seventh one, Ibn Mas'ud says he forgot. He forgot. So Abu Jahl, Utbah, Shayba, Walid, Umayyah, and Uqbah. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about the house of Al-Arqam. The house of Al-Arqam. Now the Sahaba, they were about 20, 30, 50 people and that had come into Islam. So around this time, anywhere from 50 to 80. 50 to 80 people had already accepted Islam within the first 5 years. Not a significant amount, not a significant amount. And most of these people were from the low class, meaning, not to put their status down, but meaning from the low class of Makkah. Of course, they are from the highest of classes in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in terms of this worldly measurement, these people were considered by the people of Quraysh, by the mushrikeen, to be from the slave class or from the lowest of their classes, even though in front of Allah they were from the highest classes. They were people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved very much. So now they needed a place to congregate. Now, do you think that they could congregate? Now, I've already mentioned what the Prophet ﷺ, who was so much respected and revered by the Quraysh, and he had such a strong support from his uncles and from his uncle and from other people, yet he was tortured. So imagine if they were to congregate openly, what would that do? What would that do to them? Even more, right? So they needed a place. They needed a place. And also, a lot of the Muslims, they were still secretly Muslims. They had not announced that they were Muslim. They haven't informed even their relatives or their friends, okay, that they were. The slaves didn't even inform their masters that they were Muslims. So there was no masjid that they could actually pray in. Okay, Masjid al-Quba was built many years later, in near Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ, he chose the house of a man by the name of Al-Arqam ibn Abil Arqam, in order for them to congregate, in order for them to start doing teaching and learning, just like how we are doing. We choose a place, we all congregate on a particular time of the day, and we come and we start to teach one another whatever verses. We start to learn whatever verses that we learn from the Prophet ﷺ, and then we start to teach each other whatever we learned previously. So you were absent last time, I'm going to teach you what I learned from the Prophet ﷺ, and so on. Okay? And so on. So this place, his house, was called Darul Arqam, meaning the house of Al-Arqam. I tried to see if I could find any historical references or pictures or anything. So I found a few, which these things are all destroyed now with the expansion, so you can't really find you could just find some traces that this is probably what it looked like, okay, in the time. But I highly doubt this. I highly doubt it. But I wanted to share actually this. All right. This is even not a full picture. Let me see if this is. Yep. Very good. So just to give you an idea of where was Darul Arqam situated. Now, first of all, I want to just go ahead and mention why the house of Al-Arqam. Why did the Prophet ﷺ choose the house of Al-Arqam? What was the wisdom behind choosing the house of Al-Arqam? Okay. What was it? Well, first of all, what we can try to deduce from some of the wisdom behind the Prophet ﷺ choosing the house of Al-Arqam was Al-Arqam was a nobleman from the tribe of Bani Makhzum. Who was Bani Makhzum? Bani Makhzum was the same tribe of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl was the chief of Bani Makhzum. And we mentioned last week or the week before that Bani Abd Manaf, which was the direct tribe of the Prophet ﷺ, and Bani Makhzum, they were rivalries. They always tried to compete. Remember what Abu Jahl said? That we were neck and neck in this race. They gave water to the pilgrims, we started to give water. They started to do this, we were doing this. We were neck and neck in this race until one of them said, he's getting direct revelation from the heavens. How are we supposed to compete with that? Do you guys remember this? So Abu Jahl, the tribe of Abu Jahl, which was called Bani Makhzum, it wasn't his tribe per se, meaning it's not something he developed. He just belonged to that tribe and he was the chief of that tribe. So anyway, Al-Arqam was from that tribe. So from the same tribe as Abu Jahl. So automatically, Bani Makhzum is a rivalry of the Hashimi tribe. So no one would suspect that a Makhzumi would be a Muslim. No one would accept. Khalid bin Walid wasn't a Muslim yet. He becomes Muslim 20 years later, about 15 years later, 17 years later, right? Many years later, he becomes a Muslim. So people from the Bani Makhzum were actually very reluctant. They became, some of the prominent ones became Muslim many years later. So the Prophet ﷺ, he chooses the house of Al-Arqam because he is from Bani al-Makhzum. He's secretly a Muslim. So no one would suspect that a Makhzumi would be helping a Hashimi. He would be helping the Prophet ﷺ because that is the last house that anyone would suspect. Al-Arqam was one of the first 10 people to accept Islam. So he can be completely trusted. So he was from amongst the top 10 people to accept Islam. Not top 10, let me rephrase. Al-Arqam was the first 10 people to come into Islam. Remember we mentioned a few people, right? We mentioned, I think, about 6 or 7 people. We didn't mention all 10, but Al-Arqam was the first 10 people to come into Islam. So that brings a level of trust in Al-Arqam. Al-Arqam was a young man that inherited this house, this property from his father. And this adds to the disguise that nobody would think that an 18 or 19 or 20-year-old would risk all of this to help the Prophet ﷺ. He's a young man. He got all of this inheritance from his father who just died, and he's about 20 years old. Now he's not going to risk this for a person who belongs to a tribe that is in direct competition with your tribe. Al-Arqam did not announce his Islam. So he did not announce it to the people. So this added a cover of secrecy, because if he had said to the people he's a Muslim, and then now all of a sudden these people are going to his house and they're congregating, then his house would become suspicious. Okay? And the other reason is the house. Now, I'm mentioning why the Prophet ﷺ chose the house of Al-Arqam. The house of Al-Arqam was located between, or rather behind, the mountain of Safa. So you guys see, this is the Kaaba right here. Okay, this is a Mount Marwa, and this is Safa right here. So right here, this is how it is. Now, if you look at, you know, let me show you guys. Makkah. Now how the Kaaba is looking, right? You will see. Bear with me, the internet is slow. Not too. Now with these big buildings, you can't really show a decent picture. This was probably one of the most beautiful pictures ever. Now everything is just... Anyway, maybe this one right here. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, Makkah aerial. Yes, right here. So, can you guys see what I'm doing or no? So where is the house? You guys can see, right? Where do you think the house of Al-Arqam be? This is probably better. So this is just like the other way around. Maybe I should be consistent. I'll do this one. Okay. So you see, this is Jabal Abi Qubais. This is where you know, the king's palace is. All right. This is Mount Safa. This is Marwa right here, just like here. This is Jabal Abi Qubais right here. Jabal Abi Qubais. This is Mount Safa, Marwa. This is Safa. This is where the clock tower is. Right. So where is Darul Arqam? Darul Arqam is somewhere around here. You guys see that? This is where Darul Arqam is. Somewhere around here. So right here. This is where Darul Arqam is. So the house of Al-Arqam, or Darul Arqam, was located behind Mount Safa. Of course, over here, there's a mountain. There was another picture I found, which was actually right here. This is actually very nice. Right? So this is the Kaaba. Okay, pay attention to this very closely, because this is important for visualization. So you see, this is Ghar Hira. This is where the Prophet ﷺ received his first revelation. So you could see that how he could see from that particular place right here. It's right here, that top of the mountain. So he could see the Kaaba like this. So this is Jabal Abi Qubais. Okay. And where is Darul Arqam? This is where now this is right here. This is the palace right here. This is where the palace is built. So you could see even the palace is on top right there. It's on top. All right. Now this is where the mountain is, Jabal as-Safa, Safa and Marwa. This is Safa and Marwa. So you see how people are making Safa and Marwa. You can see that small little, this mountain and that mountain. So they go up, but now all of that, of course, is flattened to a large degree. It's flattened to a large degree. There was another picture I found as well, which probably showed a little bit more. Anyway, I think this should be good enough for visualization purpose. Yeah. Anyway, I like to do this because it helps me to visualize, as well as it helps the students to visualize. So you see the Prophet ﷺ, so you see that the house of Al-Arqam is behind, or located behind the mountain of Safa. And this mountain was, you see, this mountain of Safa is located in such a place, that is like almost in the middle, right? So you have any traffic. So let's say this is where his house is, right here. So you have traffic coming from here, you have traffic coming from here, you have traffic coming from here, you have people living in this area. So if you have people going here, and there are other people who are trying to be who are spying on you, when you are going, where do you think they're going to suspect you going? Like, where do you think they will suspect you are going to? Oh, okay, the guy is going to the Kaaba. He probably has some business there. He's probably going to worship some idols there. He's probably going to do some, whatever it is. So the last place that they're going to suspect you is be a Muslim and go to the house of Al-Arqam. So you walk in, every day you're going there, and along with hundreds of people, right? There's people going in, coming out, going in and out. It's not like somewhere hidden, you know, like maybe here, somewhere hidden, where people are like, let me go ahead and follow this guy. Where is he going? And then no one really goes to this place except 30 people. Then you're going to get suspicious. Where are these people going? Right? So if you look suspicious, if you are going to a place that no one really goes to, that is really going to raise eyebrows. So the Prophet ﷺ, he chose this place because it's like right there in the center of Mecca, basically. That's where it is. It's in the center of Mecca. And you want to have a secret place right there. I mean, it's just like, how many times have you heard, you know, a fugitive who is on the run for years, for like 20 years. And guess where his house was all this time? Right next to the police station. How many times have you heard that you lost your car, or someone else lost his car, and this has become so famous, it became into a famous, where's your car? It's probably in front of the police station, meaning the police is out there looking everywhere except right in front of them, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he tapped into that wisdom. So he chose this secret meeting right here, smack in the middle of Mecca, where there is traffic. And when there's traffic, you will get lost. People won't really suspect you. They will just say he went to the Haram, and he went there for a while, he came back. So it's not really something suspicious, as opposed to if you were to go all the way, make a journey here, and then come back, Yeah, people were okay. What's going on all the way there? All right, what's going on all the way there? So that's it. I was hoping to actually start the immigration to Abyssinia because it's. I wanted to talk about that, but okay, next week we will continue. But are there any questions? Let's look at the chat. Use Google Map. Okay, let's see, Google Map. But if I use Google Map, it's not going to take me 1400 years ago, Brother Abdul Basit. It's, it's not going to take, right here. Okay. Yeah, but still, it's just going to show me. Yeah, so this is the Haram. This is way, way too far. Right? This is in Aziziyah. That is probably, this is probably a charter. This is a school. It's named after that. So it's not like the actual Al-Arqam. So Safa and Marwa. So you have Marwa here and Safa here. So you could say that his house was somewhere around here. This is the Kaaba. All right. So that is, so you have Jabal Abi Qubais. You see, royal plat. Where is the Jabal?
Yeah, you can press the satellite so that you can get the visual.
Which one?
You press the satellite.
Where's
down
that?
There. Down there at the left, satellite, you press that.
Satellite.
Satellite. Oh.
Yeah, mashallah. So you guys see this? This is where that palace is right here. Okay, this is Jabal Abi Qubais right here. So his house. Of course, none of these things exist now. None of them. They've destroyed everything. They had to. They had to. This is interesting. Why is the Zamzam here? Maybe it's there, but they've pushed it anyway. So you see how, just as a little tangent, so this was a mountain here, this was a mountain here, and she would go, Hajar alayha salam, she would go up here trying to see if there's anyone that she could call out for help in the horizon. Go down, come up here, do this, and all the while her baby was somewhere around here, and she's crying. So this is what we do as a ritual as Muslims during our Umrah and Hajj as well, inshallah. So let's see. So I mentioned Ghar Hira right here. So remember that is in compliance with what we mentioned. Remember the Kaaba was here, and we mentioned Jabal Abi Qubais was here, Darul Arqam was here, and Ghar Hira was all the way here. So the Prophet ﷺ, so this mountain here, he was here, he could see, it was positioned in such a way that he could see right here, from here all the way here, he could see the Kaaba. And this is actually a very far distance. So anyway, we will talk about, inshallah, how the Prophet ﷺ made hijrah and so on. If there's no more questions, then we call it a day, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين.
جزاك الله خير شيخ.
وإياك وإياك. Thank you very much.
So one question, Sheikh, do we have class in Ramadan as usual every Sunday?
Yeah, we might be able to have class, but I was wondering if we could push it up.
Push it up, like?
Push it down, maybe.
Oh, okay, later?
Yeah, later, maybe. I don't know.
Like 2 o'clock after Salat Zohar?
Yeah, maybe we can do 2 o'clock.
Is it okay with everybody?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you're okay.
Yes,
Yes,
inshallah.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah.
Perfect, perfect.
Yes,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Okay. All right, inshallah.
Salwa, I hear your voice.
Well, Sister Salwa.
Yes, it's a Salwa, I say, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Thank you, my dear.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
All right.
Jazakallah khair,
See you
Sheikh.
next week.
All right. Take care.
Inshallah.